The Toronto Raptors lose in embarrassing fashion to the Brooklyn Nets, one of their worst losses of the season. Let's go to the film room.
The only thing that's originally filmed is that and I've studied older films and tried to figure out how I got that impression. I was getting meetings right in the cutting room.
The unique thing about film is an art form
exactly.
is the editing.
Tonight was perhaps Scottie Barnes' worst game of the season. 3 of 10 from the field and really didn't get anything going offensively for a Raptors team that ended up scoring less than 90 points and back-to-back games with fewer than 100 points for the Toronto Raptors. It is on Scottie Barnes to be aggressive when the Raptors' offense isn't going. As their second scorer right now without RJ Barrett, it's up to him to be able to put pressure on the rim, put pressure on defenses, and tonight he was lackluster in doing that overall. He didn't take a single shot in the restricted area tonight. 0 of 10. He didn't take a single shot in the restricted area tonight. He took 5 shots in the paint and was 3 of 5 in the paint. He missed all of his shots outside of the paint. So this is I'm only going to break down one play of his, but this is a possession that's really emblematic of what I thought was some wild passiveness from Scottie Barnes. So they run a guard pick and roll for Scottie on the empty side, right? And we've seen this tons of times this season where Scottie will use the little bit of advantage that he has to get downhill and finish here. But instead what happens is, they switch this action. Good job by Clowney to stay in front. And this is usually, and by usually I mean this season, we've seen in the past moments where Scottie Barnes is passive. We've seen in the past where Scottie Barnes isn't looking at the basket, etc. Maybe he's looking to pass a little bit more than shoot. But at least this season, he has been extremely aggressive at trying to get into the teeth of the defense and score. And on this possession, he decides to pick up his dribble while he has a downhill advantage. And yes, he finds Mamu cutting to the basket. And yes, they find an advantage is created there for a wide open Jamison Battle who misses. That to me is a symptom of the passiveness, or I guess a cause of the passiveness that we've seen from Scottie Barnes, especially in this game. That was the worst performance from Scottie Barnes this season, I think. He ended up with 6 points, 6 rebounds, 3 of 10 from the field. And like I mentioned, none of those shots were in the restricted area. As we welcome you into the film room, folks, I have nothing else to say other than the fact that the Raptors were really, really bad in this game. Much like the Celtics game where I came to you and I said they weren't able to get into the paint. They got out-rebounded. Jakob Poeltl came back tonight and played 7 minutes, did not return after his back stiffened up. And that's more concerning moving forward for this Raptors team. But much of the same issues the Raptors had against a very good Boston Celtics team, they had against a much worse Brooklyn Nets team. And the Nets, by the way, shout out to them. They've been playing good basketball recently. Their defense has looked much better. And Jordi Fernandez has those guys hooping. You have to pay respect to your opponent every single night. This is the NBA. You can't take nights for granted, et cetera, et cetera. Also, the Raptors had travel issues, so they didn't get into their hotel until 5 o'clock in the morning. This morning, the whole Jakob Poeltl stuff, I can throw excuses here, left, right, and center. The fact of the matter is that the Raptors played a team that they should have absolutely beat. Doesn't matter if RJ Barrett was missing. Doesn't matter that Jakob Poeltl left after 7 minutes. This was a game that you should have won. And by the way, the Raptors had opportunities to win it. They were within striking distance multiple times. They even got the lead in the fourth quarter. And it was the Nets that shut the door on them with some incredible shot making from Yegor Joman, Michael Porter Jr., and the likes. That is unacceptable. That's really, really bad process results, whatever you want to call it, from a team that should have aspirations of making it to the playoffs this season, that has the talent requisite to make it to the playoffs in the Eastern Conference this season. You can't be winning games like that. And, I've talked about how this Raptors offense is in atrophy in the sense that they can't get any quality looks at any point in time in the half court. To add to the fact that they are getting out rebounded like crazy, so they can't get out in transition, and so their transition offense is also struggling because of it. There is no way for this Raptors team to score easy buckets, and that puts even more pressure on Scottie Barnes and on Brandon Ingram to deliver. Scottie did not deliver tonight, and Brandon Ingram, for his part, was okay. Not the best Brandon Ingram performance. He finished with 19 points on 18 shots. He was forced into a lot of tough shots. And the defense, opposing defenses at this point, are keyed in on this. They are not afraid of Jacoby Walter beating them, or Jamison Battle beating them, or Jamal Shed beating them, or Grady Dick beating them. They are worried about Brandon Ingram getting hot. And while B.I. had stretches in this game where he looked like he was feeling it, overall, you're forcing him to be a tough shot maker. And while Brandon Ingram is absolutely a tough shot maker and tough shot taker, that can't be the basis of your offense consistently. You are going to lose in the NBA if that is the only thing you have at your repertoire, if you will. So let's talk about this specific possession that I think really shows this Raptors offense struggling. One, because of the spacing and the way teams are playing them. The Raptors, teams are playing more zone against the Raptors over the last few days. Part of that is, again, not allowing Brandon Ingram to get into comfortable spots. Two, walling off the paint because they know that the Raptors live in the painted area, in the mid-range area. And so with the zone, it's much easier to guard those areas of the floor. And three, it's not like anybody on the Raptors right now is shooting the lights out, other than Mamu, other than Brandon Ingram. So why not dare them to beat them from the outside? And you see it on this possession right here. So as you see, Brandon Ingram, right, has a one-on-one opportunity here in the posted area. And you see the spacing here. Grady Dick is actually pointing to say, hey, let's get our spacing right and spread out on the floor. So then Colin Murray-Boyles goes to the dunker spot area. But again, watch how many Brooklyn Nets are keyed in on Brandon Ingram. The help is coming from above the break. The help is coming from baseline. Day'Ron Sharp is worried about CMB as the dunker spot guy. But they are basically betting that even if he kicks it out to Grady Dick here, the Raptors won't have an advantage. And they're betting, the Nets are, on their help side rotations to get back to quickly or to dart back to quickly here. So they are betting against Brandon Ingram. They're betting against the Raptors' supplementary offensive players. Ingram makes this shot, this fadeaway double-team shot, but you're not going to win a lot of basketball games if that's the only shots you are consistently getting. They need to be much, much better on the offensive end. And that goes to my point about this atrophy that the Raptors offense is dealing with. It's not just that they're missing RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl, and so problem solved. Of course, those players help in a tremendous way. The screening ability of Jakob Poeltl is essential to guys like Emmanuel Quickley and to Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram to get into the teeth of the defense. And so he's very important as a screener for this team offensively. That's established. RJ Barrett, same thing. I mentioned it, but the Raptors have cratered in their points in the paint department since RJ Barrett has been injured. They are dead last in offense since RJ Barrett left the game. And you can see it. You can see that the lack of downhill gravity is not allowing the Raptors to get opposing defenses in transition, in rotation. It's bad right now. It's very bad for the Toronto Raptors. And so the question you have to ask yourself, folks, will RJ Barrett solve everything? Is he the solution to all of the Raptors' problems, or were they overperforming expectations when they were winning? The question there is, they probably were doing a little bit of both. Yes, RJ Barrett is essential to this Raptors team, especially on the offensive side of the floor. But at the same time, they were probably overperforming their actual standards when RJ Barrett was on the floor. And so they are probably somewhere in between what they were in November when they were on that ridiculous win streak and what they are now, which is this fledgling offensive team that truthfully just has no idea what they want to do on any given possession. It has been very, very bad. And I just don't know the way out for this Raptors team other than for their guys to get healthy. Of course, we can bring up trades. And, I guarantee you the Raptors will look to make some moves at some point, whether they are big or small moves. We'll see what happens there. Jakob Poeltl can't get traded until January 15th. So you still got you got like 3 weeks of basketball left until you can even consider trading Jakob Poeltl if you wanted to. And that opens up options for you, obviously, trade-wise. So I don't think they're going to be making a trade anytime soon. But that is something they have to probably open the possibility of, is making a big trade here to go out and get a starting center, or at least a center that can play starting center for you when Jakob Poeltl is hurt. And at the same time, they need to find out how important RJ Barrett is. I think we have found out, truthfully, how important RJ Barrett is to this team, but they need to see how it all looks together. Was it just fool's gold in November, or was it more than that? The good news is RJ Barrett should be back soon. And it seems like over the next week or so, we probably will see RJ back in the lineup. They play Miami before Christmas. They play the Wizards on Boxing Day. And then they have a string of games against the Warriors, Magic, and Nuggets to close out the year. Pretty decent schedule right there. That's tough. That's a tough schedule. Miami's a good team. They just beat Miami. Washington is obviously going through their struggles, but you got to respect everybody. You just lost to the Nets. And of course, the Warriors, Magic, and Nuggets, 3 very good teams, in my opinion, who will cause some trouble for the Raptors. How will they respond? And honestly, man, how will Scottie Barnes respond? I have been on here for the last 2 months saying I am so wildly impressed with what Scottie Barnes has done this season because he has been consistent in his approach. That approach has not wavered game to game like we've seen in the past. Every single game, he is making his impact on it, whether it's defensively, whether it's as a playmaker, and even if the shot isn't falling, he was finding other ways to impact the game. The last couple of games between the Celtics and the Nets game, I have not seen that. Now, granted, it's just 2 games. That doesn't necessarily matter in the grand scheme of things. Scottie very much on pace to be an all-star level player this season. But you need to be able to do it night in, night out. And you need to do it when your team doesn't have it. Those are the moments that matter the most throughout a season, when you are barely scoring 60 points in the third quarter against the Brooklyn Nets. How are you going to, as the franchise leader, as the superstar, quote unquote, of this team, how are you going to lead them? Now, I'm not in the locker room. I have no idea how vocal of a leader Scottie is, or how much he's talking to the group throughout games. We're not privy to that information. But in terms of what he's putting out there on the floor, he needs to be much better. That's the basis of this whole thing. Scottie Barnes needs to be much better than he was the last couple of games. He was excellent in that Miami game. Think about the defensive stops that he had in that fourth quarter to help turn the game around, the offensive rebound into an and one. He was also excellent in that Bucks game where the three-point shot was falling. He was scoring. He was getting downhill. He was using his gravity to create shots for others. I remember that rip-through finish against Bobby Portis. That was the same play he could have done against Noah Clowney in the first play that I broke down. It feels like there's something missing there. And again, they could be tired, the travel delays. They could be missing their starting center. They could be missing their starting shooting guard who averages 20 a night. All of that is true. But what kind of product are you putting out there is the biggest question here. They just need to be better. And tonight was a yikes, embarrassing type of performance. Truthfully, either their second or third worst loss of the season. I still think the Hornets loss is very bad. That one was very, very bad. This one, because it was the second night of a back-to-back, because of the travel issues, because of the Yak situation, it's not as bad as that one, but it's a pretty embarrassing loss. It's pretty to shout out Samson Folk, who used to do these. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Folks, we'll see how they do on Miami. Maybe, Scottie going back home to Miami will help give him some energy, give him some boost. Maybe the holiday spirit will help folks out. I don't know. I have no idea. The Raptors need to do some soul searching because it feels like the Raptors are broken. It is a long season. To not be doom and gloom, I will leave you guys on the positive note that it probably will be better than this. And that RJ Barrett will return and the offense will probably look better and they will be able to run more often. And hopefully, if they don't even find, if Yakapurtl can't stay healthy, they find a solution with a backup center quickly. Those are my silver linings for you. So we leave with some, holiday spirit, if you will. As always, like, comment, subscribe, do the things that you guys usually do for Raptors Republic. We appreciate you. We'll see you against the Miami Heat on Tuesday. Peace.